Yes. Oh, hello, friends. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good. Good, good, good. If you can turn your videos on, we would love to see your faces. I see videos popping on. I don't know about you, Jen, but I get so much energy when we get to see faces. Oh, makes me feel so much better.
It is nice to see people moving around, interacting, and chatting with us for sure. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound beautiful. You are crystal clear, my friend. Let me stop sharing my sound too that way. Oh, Mary grabbed her book. I've got all the books everywhere. Pulled them off my bookshelf because I wanted to share something out of shift with you guys today as well, because I think it leads in perfectly to what we're going to talk about today. So is everybody ready to dive in? Jen, you ready to dive in?
Let's do this because this hour goes really fast, and I want to make sure we get the most value out of today and go through the pages. So just so you guys are following along, we are on day 2 of our MREA series, where if you're following along in the book, we're on pages 67 through 97 today, and we're diving into Think a Million and 9 ways to think like a millionaire agent.
And I've popped the workbook back into the chat if you are newly joining us or you needed that link again. And then guys, if you have not joined us on the Growth Call Facebook page, I'm going to pop that up there because I did put all of yesterday's resources and things from the chat log in there. And that's a pinned post. So watch that group for different things as well. It's not just the Growth Call, it's your growth in general. So today we are doing pages 67 on all the way up to, I think 96 was where we stopped, if I remember correctly. So, 67 to 97. Did I lose you, Jen? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, let's just dive right in, Brooke. Let's do this.
So I highlighted something in here. And, when we talk about thinking like a million, we talk so much about mindset and growth through mindset, and walk through the halls of any KW and you see the bold laws just stamped everywhere. It's funny. I've gotten to the point where I start to reprimand my children with bold laws. Like, anybody else, do you use it as a way to like parent with bold laws? They have no idea what you're talking about. It's wonderful. But to think like a millionaire real estate agent, we do have to get our mindset in the right place. We do. We have to put ourselves
thinking like a millionaire, right? Thinking like a millionaire real estate agent. So I'm on page 67, and there is a line that I underlined on this first page here of 67. And it just says, I began answering my phone with the line national office. Now that might not sound like a big deal, but what do you think when Gary Keller answered in the basement of his house, or where he was, national office? Do you think that he was thinking big?
Very big.
Or so he didn't just say, hi, I'm Gary Keller, or, it's a great day at Gary Keller's house or office. He said national office. He was thinking that big when he first started. So I want you guys to reflect on that for just 30 seconds. How big are you thinking right now? Is it big enough to hit your goals and your vision to where you want to go? And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's the whole plan for today. So Brooke, Rebecca would like to know what page in the workbook.
So I'm just looking at that now. I apologize for my silence for a minute. The topics are listed in there. So if you are looking at the topics, it gives you the page numbers, and then you just have to scroll a bit. A lot of what this is are more of the models, the different figures and images. Today, we're going to be right on page, I believe it's 11 in the PDF, but 7 at the bottom. We're going to touch on big why. So that's where you'll want to be. But a lot of these we use the same figures over and over.
So I'm going to jump right to page 69, and it says in this chapter, so what we're doing today are 3 things. The 9 ways the millionaire real estate agent thinks. We're going to dive into that. We're also going to dive into the 3 L's of a millionaire real estate agent, which we discussed a little bit yesterday. And then also the 8 goal categories of a millionaire real estate agent.
So I have something highlighted on.
Dive into it.
So I have something highlighted on 69 and on 68 that just shows up over and over in this chapter. To put ourselves in the best possible growth position, we must think like a million from the start. We learned that from your quote in the beginning by answering the phone, National Sales Office. But we've got to start ourselves out right in the day. And a lot of the things he talks about in this chapter is medical students. And he really talks about how difficult it is to be a medical student and how they have to earn it. They work so hard, right? How many years is a medical degree? It's like a bazillion, right? And then they have all these work studies, and then they have practice. I love that things are called a practice. It is a real estate practice because you are going to keep learning and doing every day. It's not called a real estate mastered it all. It's called a real estate practice. It's a medical practice because we keep growing and learning and shifting, right? We've talked a lot about shifting already in this. But here are the 9 ways a millionaire real estate agent thinks. And I'm hopping to page 71. Now, the first 2 are foundational in everything we're going to do. Okay. So they think powered by a big why. And in the chat, put a why if you think you've got your big why centered, if you've got it written down or you think you've got it where you want it, just put a why in the chat. Put an N if you'd like to learn more, and we'll make sure we get more stuff out on that. The second is think big goals, big models. I don't think GK was sitting there thinking small when he was thinking about building his real estate career. Now, the rest of these things are supportive, right? So you think about the possibilities. You think about the action. Here's a tough one, guys. You think without fear. Think progress. Think competitively and strategically. You think about standards and you think about service. So let's start with big why. I'm seeing some yeses, some nos. I think talking about big why is one of the hardest things we talked about because it's so personal, but sometimes we don't get personal enough. And the quote right on page 72 says, if you have the right why, it kicks the tar out of any how. You can always figure out the how. I actually have that on my whiteboarded here as well, because oftentimes everybody suffers from some mindset issues, right? So Sandra's is paying for my daughter's college. That's a lot of people's big whys. You'll figure out the how when the why is strong enough. And I love that. Jen, do you have anything you want to add to that one?
Yeah, absolutely. The last part of the number 1, think powered by a big why, there is the last couple of sentences that it's now, let me know if this relates to you or if it has ever related to you. Ever see anyone work the day before a vacation? It is truly amazing. No matter how they approach yesterday, today they become a model for the entire world on how to get things done. Why? Because if they get it all done, they can go play. That is a pretty big why. I see a couple of people smiling on here. How many people know that that's true, right?
What
right?
Is that on?
I know you guys are my people because I'm the same way. Somehow it miraculously gets all done in that time frame, but yet if we weren't going on vacation, it would have taken us months.
Oh, it's always my favorite thing is you don't have any business. Just tell your clients you're going on vacation because all of a sudden business goes bananas. Like it's
right. That's the Murphy's law. See, I gotta watch out because my Rhode Island accent comes out every once in a while. Sorry, law. Every time you go on vacation. But here's the thing, the why showed up really fast, right? And you got it done. So on the next page, and it says, it's actually in larger font. So on page 73, it says, because a big why brings big focus and big energy, we somehow come up with the energy we need to focus on what we need to focus to get everything done before we actually go on that vacation, right? That's a big why. So now break that down into, because I just want to slow this down for one quick second, because I will tell you, coming up with a big why, and I don't know if it's anyone on here, it could just be me. It was really hard. It was hard for me to even like comprehend what does a big why really mean? And what I found was I was overcomplicating what a big why is. And if I simplified it to even just using that experience of going on vacation tomorrow, and I got everything done that I needed to because I brought the energy and focus to what I wanted to do, which was go on vacation, it was a lot clearer for me. So when you're thinking of your big why, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about it today, try to simplify it when we dive into the whys today. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Okay. So high achievers will always have a big why. And then I also have underlined here, live every day with such purpose. Every day with such purpose, like you would if you were going on vacation the next day, every day. Brooke, what do you want to add to that?
I think I love the favorite part. So, as somebody who was a non-producing agent when I first got here to Keller Williams, I fought that. And I kept saying to the people at my market center leadership, I am just ... I don't need to do this. And boy, did they change my mindset on that real quick, because I was not just ... And what I love about this is that it brought focus, and it brought more heart to my role and the things I was doing, because my big why is big for me. And then the people I was working with every day got to see that and feel it, because I could start to articulate it in our conversations and in different ways. And it just made me show up a little different every day when I walked through the doors of the market center.
Okay. I do see a hand up before we actually, you know what? We'll take the hand. Rebecca.
So it's funny that we're talking about this, because I feel like I have really put in the work over the past 2 weeks to block my time, get in my calendar, put it in the calendar, make sure that it exists, that it's going to happen. And every week I'm finding myself tweaking it so that it works for me. And I realize that I can allow myself, the 5 extra minutes in between, but sometimes that's not enough. And sometimes just the idea of having to be so regimented can make me not want to be, or, distract me from that. Vacation for me, I love the idea of it, but it's hard for me to think, oh yes, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to pull all of the moves out of my, right before the vacation, because that's how we all do. But if it doesn't exist, if it's not in the books, if it's not already planned, if it's not already paid for, then what, right? So I've been scaling it down and doing, okay, I'm going to dinner this week, or I'm going to hang out with my girlfriends, and I'm going to just shut down. I'm not going to do any work. I'm going to give myself a full 2 hours, and I'm going to look forward to that and just have those little weekly, vacations, I guess, away from the regimen, because the schedule, when you get into it, it can be overwhelming at times, especially if you're digging into your 12-week plan, if you're going into your, your 5-year plan, your 3-year, and your micro going in super granular, and then you're trying to scale back and do this macro of a week to week, So I just wanted to put that in, those 2 cents in, and just say that, it doesn't necessarily have to be that big vacation, because for me, it's not. I'm not there yet, So it's the little things too that I'm allowing myself to look forward to throughout the week, whether it's like a nature walk, or to unplug, or just those things.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, Rebecca. Thank you so much for, and we encourage this. So thank you so much for adding that. And here's the thing, we're going to do an exercise in 1 minute. And it's all about that. It's actually finding out just what motivates you. And what motivates Rebecca is time. That's probably her love language, is having time to be able to reset, re-energize, refocus. So that's what we're talking about. So Rebecca, thank you for leading me right into this next sentence in the book. And I'm going to have everybody do this. Every single person on this call, take out a piece of paper, whether you're using paper or digital paper, take out a piece of paper. And here's what it says in the book. I'm just following along with the book. It says, okay, let's pause for a moment. For the next couple of minutes, and if you're driving, Joe Keenan, please don't do this while you're driving. Just think about it mentally. For the next couple of minutes, I'd like for you just to think about what really motivates you, then write down your thoughts. So right now, everybody on this call, write down what motivates you. What gets you going every day? Go ahead.
What page are you?
I'm on page 73 still. It's about right in the middle. It says, okay, let's pause for just a moment. For the next couple of minutes, I'd like for you just to think about what really motivates you. Then write down your thoughts. Sometimes we skip over stuff in books that are really important. And I feel like this is a really important piece in the book, because if we don't know what motivates us, we're not going to be able to figure out what our why is. And again, our whys don't have to be this grand big thing like grand big vacations. They could be just to go take a hike and have that time to be able to do that, because you're motivated by the time that your brain's able to reset and refocus, if that makes sense. And Rebecca, thank you again for adding that. All right, let's take a few moments to write that down. All right, who wants to share a couple of motivating things that they wrote down? Let's share with the group, because it could motivate others, by the way. Go ahead, Heidi.
Okay, so well, my big why is to retire on time. So making money because I desire to accelerate my future time off, but more immediately it's to whittle down my to-do list. And then when I think about my just feelings about things, it's because I really don't want to annoy anybody or let them down if I said that I would get back to them by the end of the day. So I have to tackle what I'm supposed to do so that I'm delivering the customer service that people expect.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Karina.
Mine is, at this point, it's getting my house updated. Just going through the rooms and updating them.
So curious, what motivates you behind that? Like, what is the motivation behind it? Is because you want to see clearer rooms? Like, what is it that motivates you?
I just want it to be ready, so when we decide to sell, I'm done. It's ready, and you know, and we can sell the house.
Awesome.
Yeah, not ready yet, but I mean, the house is my taste, so I need to kind of tone it down.
Right. So the motivation is when the house is ready to sell, you could sell it with ease and probably for a higher profit margin because you're basically staging your home.
Yeah, basically.
Something like that, right? Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah. Anyone else? Brooke, did you want to add anything on to that?
I will tell you my big why. It's so my husband doesn't have to work as hard as he's had. My husband is a medic. And for those of you who know me, he's back to school full time. My husband is always working. We'd love to see him more. So my big why is it does have money behind it, but the big why is so that he doesn't have to work so hard to do the things we want to do and give our kids the experiences we want to give them.
I love that.
What was that?
That is exactly mine. I want to take the pressure off of my husband. He is
Yep.
always
Yeah.
so weird about his own business, and he's to the point where he hates it. So I said to him, why don't you go into real estate with me? And he's like, no, I'm going to retire and let you do the real estate thing.
Yeah, and it's we often say the big why is not about money, right? Money is only as good as what the money can do for you and others. So yes, we have to make the money, but why are we making the money, and who does it benefit in our world, and what motivates us for that, right? You can apply it to stuff that's worthwhile. So your big why should choke you up. It should bring a tear to your eye. It should evoke emotion in you. And the first 2 or 3 times you ever talk about it in a group, it should make you cry. I truly feel that when you feel that strong against your big why, and you can share it and articulate it, you should get choked up. Not everybody cries. I'm a crier, right? But it should feel that way. It should feel that way. Heidi?
Just to delve a little bit further into my big why, which is to retire on time, is I had that big why that about 5 years ago. And so it took me a few years to even figure out, well, what was the time frame of it and why? And then it ended up causing me to have to start learning about finances and meet with a wealth manager to know, well, where do I need to be financially in order to be able to have time off? And then it caused me to have to learn about, well, how to buy an investment property, because that's going to support the goal. So I started really drilling down, because the motivation was just the big why was so clear to me. And without that big why, I wouldn't have been doing the production level that I'm doing either.
I love that. I love that. You've got a strong motivator. Strong. So we're going to all work on our big whys. Dig a little deeper into them. Next is, Jen, do you have anything else before we jump into the goals and big models?
I have a bunch highlighted on page 76. Yet we can just jump into the goals, because it is already almost halfway through the class. So, I'll just a couple of things on the page, maybe not all of them, but a couple of
Pick your favorite. Pick your favorite.
The first sentence on page 76. It says, as you've probably guessed, my personal favorite is the big why that drives people to be the best they can be. That really resonates with me. And I'm just going to read it again, because it really does just hit me hard. My personal favorite is the big why that drives people to be the best they can be. So, I have a couple of different big whys, but they all lead to the same thing, and that's giving back as much as I can. And that the fifth path to being a millionaire is to give $1 million. And my big why is to basically have a legacy enough around me to be able to have a food truck of some sorts and just go places and hand out free food to people who need it. That's just what I want to do. My family is a food background. My mom's a chef, and it's just in our blood. My grandmother had a restaurant and such, and I want to do good with that. And I really want to I don't know why. I don't know where it came from, but I want a food truck to be able to go places and give it to people. And I can't do that without all of these other things happening and the other whys getting in place. So, and I need to be the best I can be to be able to get there. So that's why that line, Brooke, really, really, really resonated with me.
I love that. So let's start thinking big goals and big models so we can get you to that food truck. I love that. I would drive that bad boy around with you any day. Goals and models. We talk about models a lot. We talk about goals a lot. And in this chapter, Gary talks about talking to top agents, and that they couldn't separate models and big goals, right? You need one to get to the other and vice versa. He talks about being at this yin and yang. But big models drive you towards the achievement of your big goals, right? I'm sure you guys are sick of seeing us and hearing us talk about the pyramids, right? The creative models and creativity. And are you on a stable, or are you flipped in creativity first, models second? It starts here, and they talk a lot about watching what other people are doing before executing. And a lot of that is we get creative and try to reinvent the wheel because we think we can do it better than the models or systems. They talk about running in this book a lot. Was Gary a runner? Like, I can't see him just like going out jogging, but he does talk about runner and marathons. Like, has anybody in here ever run a marathon? I've done it. It hurts. It hurts. I'll never do it again, but I did it. But there's no way I would.
Karen, 5 marathons, like full, like, what is that? 26 point something?
26.2.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you, Karen. That is, wow.
5.
Wow. Right. But can you just get off the couch and go?
No.
No. That's why they have Couch to 5K and all those programs, because you have to start setting small goals, right? And doing all these things that lead you, and you have to do the same things, right? When I set out to do this Disney marathon, I thought it was going to be something completely different than it was. And man, did I get in the best shape of my life. I was like, oh, I'm going to run around in a princess dress. No, that is not how it works.
Well, I just have to mention Laura also has run 5 marathons and an ultra, which I don't even know what that means, but it sounds like it hurts. And then I see that there's a market center doing a Couch to 5K, and Brooke, that goes right to your point. That actually is right in alignment with this book, because you absolutely have to have the tools and the foundation from the couch to get to the 5K. If you've ever done a Couch to 5K before, you know that you start by meeting with people and you walk. You don't start off by running. You walk, and then you add in 30-second intervals, and then you walk. And then the next day you add a little more, maybe a minute long, and then you walk. So guys, like these fundamental tools of figuring out your big why and how to get to where we need to go to is so important in this book. So thank you for mentioning that. The Couch to 5K is a huge example of exactly the models of this book.
And the MREA is your Couch to 5K. It really is. You pick up speed as you go, right? There's no way I could have gone from the couch potato I was to running in the Disney Marathon if I didn't do very specific steps or have that thing barking at me to do it in my ears. Cause I did pick the general, the mean, like Army general guy. And it became a habit. And I knew my model because if I was given a set of, you have to, be running this and doing this, and same thing with our businesses. But the other important thing to remember is that these models become habits.
Mm-hmm.
And lack of models create bad habits sometimes, right? And we fight those models, but big goals, big why, big models, big business. And that's how we really use the big goals and the big models to think like a millionaire.
Laura is a rock climber as well, just so you know, like I'm kind of afraid of Laura right now because I am not any of those, and I'd like to be at some point.
She's going to
I do need to mention a book, Good to Great. It's in Gary Keller mentions this in this book on page 76, Good to Great by Jim Collins. Put it on your list of books. Right now we're focused on MREA and Shift. Put Good to Great on your list to either download by Audible or both purchase and Audible.
I will throw the link in for you, and that will be in our wrap up as well.
All right, I think we need to move a little bit quicker, Brooke. So if you want to take on some, I'll stop reading my highlights in my book because I have a lot.
Is your book just one giant blob of yellow? I need to know, like.
It's not. See, it's just some highlights. See.
So we need to think possibilities, right? I don't know about you guys, but I was labeled as the daydreamer in school growing up. She's a daydreamer. But I was actually daydreaming about where I was going to be in my career while I was sitting in those career type classes in my tech high school that I lived basically in, right? So you've got to have the thought of, is it possible? Do you think what you're trying to do is possible? And there's stages, right? So they go on to say, and this is at the top of page 82, first paragraph, there are 3 stages of possibility thinking that people can either get stuck in Don't get stuck in or go through. Nothing is possible. Something is possible. Anything is possible. Right? Nothing is possible. Something is possible. Anything is possible. For many, when they say nothing is possible, it's because they're not thinking big enough and they're not thinking about big opportunities, don't have big whys, models, or goals. See how it's all like kind of wrapped together? It's like it was meant to be for you. And then Greg, I love the quote in here. I've always thought big. The opportunities in real estate are limitless. And look around you, they are. There's so many fun things we can do in this world outside of just being a producing agent and the good that we can do. They talk about the relationship of Tom Hanks and Wilson in The Castaway. How many have seen that movie? It gives me heartburn. But we've got to start thinking about possibilities and making sure we don't get stuck in number one where we say nothing is possible. Jen, what do you have highlighted in this?
You hit on it. You hit on it already. And, you know, I'm looking ahead to think action, and they go back to, I'm on page 84 now. They go back to the Tom Hanks character, Chuck, in Castaway on page 84. And they talk about the package with the angel wings. Does anybody remember that part?
Yeah.
Angel wings. And it was so essential to the possibilities of what could happen if he was able to do what?
Just get there.
Just deliver the package. And that was what got him to action, right? The possibility of it led to the action of it. So I just love that piece.
I do too, because oftentimes we live in this role where we get ready to do something and we never deploy it. The marketing doesn't look good enough. My social media is not perfect enough. I don't like the way my header or footer looks. And at the end of the day, you didn't do it. And my 5-year-old reminded me of this last week when she said, "Mommy, finish the sentence. Practice makes." And I screamed, "Perfect." And she looked at me like I had 40 heads. And she's like, "No, it makes progress." And I was like, "Well, I am so sorry, Hope Robin Silva." But she was so right that it's not perfection. We are never going to be perfect. And taking action is so important because you've got to just do. You cannot sit on this knowledge and not do anything with it. The quote says it right here. If I do the right thing, the money will be there. We've got to take action. Done is better than perfect. Shall put it right in the chat.
I also like Heidi's new mindset of really, how hard could it be?
What's the worst that can happen, right? Like, I love that.
Also, you want to avoid perfection paralysis, which is a very real
we talk
thing.
about that. We talk about that a lot with our team leaders, believe it or not. Like, that's something we bring up a lot, that, hey, I don't have the right thing to say, or we don't have the right class, or I don't have the right tool right now. And it's, listen, relationships. And they say it on the top of page 86, there is no failure. You win or you learn, right? You win or you learn. We've got to just keep going forward. And then we got to think progress. It's breakthroughs. It's those aha moments. And I love living. That's like the light bulb moment for me, right? When things go, now I get it. Or, oh, this is why this is meant to be, or this is why I put that system in place, or this is why I hired that person to support me. You've got to use all the actions and different things we have to move yourself forward and see progress. And a lot of what we do is sometimes boring. And I think that's why we stop doing some of these things. But it's the constant things we do every single day that have the biggest lead up into action and to the progress of things we're doing. If you make the phone calls, if you knock the doors, if you stay top of mind, you send the emails, you do your 36 touch, you do the work. The rest takes care of itself. The rest takes care of itself.
A lot of failing forward. I think you've heard that term before here at Keller Williams. A lot of failing forward. And Gary Keller talks a lot about his failing forward throughout the entire time he's been in business. Since 1983, he has failed forward every single year, including this year, by the way, including this year. There is a great story on page 89 that talks about Andrew Carnegie. And he had an employee that cost him $1 million in business. Are you guys following me along in the book? If you are, it's on page 89. It's the top paragraph. And in the middle of that paragraph, the businessman came into Carnegie's office, and the conversation was started by apologizing and say he understood why he was being let go. And Carnegie replied, "Why would I fire you when I just invested $1 million in your education? Progress is important and is usually achieved by the person who makes the most attempts. The quality is in the quantity." That's right, Heidi. Fail often, fail fast, and fail forward. That's exactly what this paragraph says. Now, here's the thing. I like to mention this because my husband is not on this call, but if he was, I would not give him any credit for this at all. Yet he is a big golfer. And I like this example that he gave me. When we golf, he's really good at golfing. I am not that great. I'm left-handed. I'm going to give it that. And I try my hardest. Yet I like to win, and I'm very competitive. So I get a little frustrated or fascinated, as Diana Kokoska would say, with the game. Paul, high five. So when we're out golfing, he always tells me something, and I find it really relative to this. He says, focus on the missed shots rather than your great shots. You know, I would always get so excited if I like actually hit the ball like straight down the center, like, yes, awesome. But I wouldn't pay attention to the shots that I didn't hit well. And he said to me, pay attention to how you miss those shots, because that's how you'll learn how to get better. And
right. And it's small tweaks, right? It's small things. It's how you hold your club. It's, do you have the right glove? Is it long enough, short enough? It's the smallest things. Could you imagine how
important for us in business?
Right? Could you imagine if we just gave up after the first no, or the first time somebody shut a door in your face or unsubscribed, right? Like, we'd all be out of business if that happened constantly, which leads us right into thinking competitively and strategically. That's a lot of words in the afternoon with not a lot of coffee. And I will tell you this, I will not play Monopoly with realtors anymore. They talk about Monopoly in this. I have learned my lesson and I've been burned enough, but they talk about being competitive in this part of the book. And it says, I want to win. I expect to get the deal. I didn't win a Cy Young Award as a major league pitcher, but I've earned that level of award in real estate. So they're talking about using some of those things. So we're thinking competitive. I'm going into this listing appointment. They're going to love me. I'm going to bring value, and they're going to list with me. And we're not talking about Monopoly. And everybody will say, I'm not competitive, or I am competitive. I'm somewhat competitive, right? Compete against yourself. Compete against yourself. We are all business owners, and our businesses are all so unique, and all of our skill sets. Did anybody in here go to school in Texas for real estate specifically? Nobody's hands ever go up. Right? Like, nobody's hands ever go up. We all have such unique backgrounds and situations and learning skills and sets of things that we know how to do that make us so unique in our businesses. And we've got to think competitively. There are success personality traits. There are failure personality traits, right? Low achievers. Can we do it? High achiever. Why? Did someone say we couldn't? Like, I'm one of those people who's motivated when people tell me, no, you can't do something. Why not? Why can't we do it? I mean, unless it's illegal, like, why can't I write this? Why can't I say this? Right? We got to start getting competitive. And real estate can become a game too, where if you think strategically, and how many of you have children where you've played board games or card games or some type of game with them, and their little personalities flip on, and all of a sudden they become card sharks or Monopoly masters, right? Like, personalities come out when you're playing games with people that you never expected at all. And you got to think that way with your business.
Brooke, can I say something real quick?
Go for it, my friend.
When you were talking about medical school and then talking about failing and failing forward, in the very beginning, when I was so scared of just everything, somebody said something to me and I came home and I made a sign out of it and put it on my desk, and it's not on my desk anymore, but I still have it. It says, "This is not brain surgery. No one will die if I make a mistake. One step at a time."
That sounds like a Bill Whitedecker quote.
No, Kevin Ryan.
I was going to say, that sounds like something Bill Whitedecker has said to me over the years. But did anybody die today from a decision you made? And I was like, well, no. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for putting that into a laser focus perspective.
None of us want to make mistakes, but we just, it paralyzes us sometimes. And we just have to remember that you're going to make mistakes and it's okay. No one's going to die. Unlike those medical students.
That's why they give them cadavers. All right, so let's think standards then. We've got to have standards in practice. Oh, I'm sorry. Abigail, go ahead. If you want to throw it in the chat, if you can't get the mute to unmute.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
That was not intentional to raise my hand.
You got it. I'll put it down for you.
Thanks.
So they talk about consequences in this book. And if you've had an animal or a child, you know there are consequences. You can't be in the house, whether you're an animal or a child. There's rules. There's standards that we live by. And there's standards in our business as well. Yeah, Shell, that's a good thing that you and Art live by that. I really appreciate that. So we've got to define our levels of performance. And this is why I love masterminds. This is why I love masterminds for new agents so much, is because you get to look at the standards that other top agents hold themselves to build their businesses bigger, and you can help craft your standards around that. Right? That's why by showing up today, you're learning these things, because I see agents who are in the very beginning or been with us forever and a day. And I love that. So you've got to be able to have those standards so you can hold yourself accountable to those standards. You can articulate them to your clients and then your future hires, so that everybody on your team or those who support you for leverage have those same standards. Think about grades, right? When your kids come home with a bad report card, I used to get punished. Like I don't punish my kids for poor grades. I look at myself first as well. What happened, right? Are we doing the same thing in our business? Today, if you hired someone, could you clearly articulate the standards of practice for you and your business? Throw a Y or an N in there in the chat. Could you clearly articulate the standards for your business? This is why I love opportunities. This is why your kid pees in the house, Ryan. You shared that. You have not clearly defined the expectations and standards of what is good and not in the house. Yeah.
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Sandra.
No, I was saying, I was thinking, listening to, and I had to like take the video because I had 4 girls in the car listening to you guys too, my teenagers going to lacrosse. But anyway, I listening to you guys, and you know, the golf part of it, and taking the shot or not taking the shot, or not focusing on when you're not taking it, and now with the consequences. I've always looked life in general, and it's hard for me to look at it in real estate, but I'm trying to focus on that now, because there's consequences either way. There's good and bad consequences. So when you don't have that model, when you don't follow that model, the consequences that you're not moving. So there's no progress, and that's a hard one for me. That is, I'm stuck in that, and then the consequences is that I'm stuck because I'm not following it. So yeah, this is good, girls. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is that there's always time to create your new standards for what you want to set forth in your business, whether you've been in the business for a long time or you're just starting. You have the ability to reset, restart, re-energize, and redo whatever you want. Nothing that we have here is set in stone. Everything that we're doing, we're just giving you the foundational models, tools, and systems. And then everything else is you. Like, it's up to you to be that good person. It's up to you to have the system that you want in place. So I appreciate you saying that, Sandra. And hello to the 4 girls listening with us.
I dropped them off. That's now you're mute, but you were,
Oh.
they were listening to you for the past 15 minutes.
I'm sorry for them, but here we are.
It's good. It's good.
Here we are. And thank you for saying that, because you know what, there are a lot of us that are in that same boat, right? That, you know, sometimes we need to give ourselves grace. We really do. And we forget that. We forget that in this business, we don't give ourselves enough grace to say, I'm not taking a call after 8 o'clock tonight, whatever your time, whatever your standard is, you know, because there are consequences. Because, you know, here's the thing, Sandra, right? If you take calls all night long, if you have 4 girls that are watching that, what are you showing them? That it's okay. Not saying that this happens, by the way, I'm just giving an example. That, you know, it's okay to let people call you or intrude on your time that you want, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So whatever the case is, it's up to you to set that standard and thinking of where you're going to be. So
one quick thing too with the big why, it was so hard to focus in through the years, is when I learned to like be very specific. Because before I was just like, oh, I wanted it to, you know, I don't know, at some point I just wanted to make more money than my ex-husband, period. And then I didn't want to do that because it was a bad divorce. But anyway, it was a negative thought and I didn't want to do that. Now, when I got into the whole, my daughter's going to college, I'm like, all right, that's the college. But even now that she's starting in September, now I'm even more specific, because I do have a number and I have a time frame. And I always said it when I used to train for mud races for Spartans and whatnot. It was so much different to train when you have that date than versus if you have to work out every day because it's healthy for you. So now I'm more specific on that why. So that going back to, I'm backing up because I was listening, but thank you. That also helped me out to like your why is so specific. You probably already even have a menu in your head. Like that's how probably specific it is. And that's much more motivated than having just, you know, feed some, you know, hungry, you know, families. So thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
Sorry, I jumped back.
That's just like having to lose 10 pounds in a month because you're going to the class reunion and you're going to see the ex.
What? None of us do that. Come on now.
The best revenge is looking good.
So that's my favorite line in this last part, where it says high intention deserves high attention. So our intention was to look the best we could at that 25-year reunion, and now it gets high attention. Same things for your business, but secondly, guys, you have to inspect it and expect certain things. So you've got to have standards, articulate it, but you've got to hold people and yourself accountable to them.
Well, you know, and number 9 is think service. And this is one that I promise you, there's 63 of us on this call. I would say at least 80% of us or more are not clear on these 3 things on page 94. And if there's anything you could do today with that paper that you wrote down your motivation pieces on, write something else out. There's 3 words on page 94 that are so important: purpose, value proposition. Fiduciary is great, but we're going to focus on purpose and value proposition. Because here's the thing, if you could get clear on your purpose, it says here, top real estate agents always have a clear understanding of why they should be hired, and they are able to articulate that to anyone at any time. Do you feel that in your business right now? You don't have to answer it in the chat. You don't have to, but I'm asking you that as a real estate professional. If not, this is the time for you to use after this class to get clear on what that is. Why is somebody hiring you? Go ahead, Rebecca.
Sorry, I just wanted to add in on that note. I don't know, probably the past week, I feel like we're touching on everything I'm doing. So I'm like, oh, I got a pointer, you know.
We're in your head.
Yeah. So I hop on Skillshare every now and then. And it's a platform essentially that teaches master classes about everything. And so there was one that was like 5 minutes, and it's like, what is your elevator pitch? Which essentially is taking your purpose and putting it into one very clear and concise sentence, because it's something that I struggle with often, where people are like, oh, well, what do you do? How long have you, and it's just, I find myself stumbling over where I'm at. And I'm like, this, why are you having a hard time articulating that to whoever you're speaking to? So that was really helpful for me. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you for that. And it's so true. And sometimes, like I said earlier, we like to overcomplicate it when we could really just simplify it. You know what your purpose is, just write it down and articulate it to the words that work for you. Don't try to sound like somebody else. Be true to you. Just do you. Like that. I truly want you to hear that. Do you in what sounds like you. You could use bits and pieces of what you hear from out in the world, but pick the words that are truly you. And the next piece of this is the value proposition. It says, even beyond their sense of purpose, the very best real estate agents are able to translate this purpose and the reason people should hire them into a specific set of services that they will provide. Do you have that written out? Do you have your specific, unique value proposition written out to where you know how to articulate your purpose and the value proposition behind that purpose? And go ahead, Karina.
We had a class on listing, and basically they were saying your value proposition has nothing to do with your today and now. Your value proposition has to do with your past. What did you learn in the past that brings you a unique value proposition that you can provide somebody?
Yeah, I agree with that, because all of us have experience in something in life, whether real estate is your first job or your fifth or 10th, it doesn't matter. We have experiences that will bring us the value in our value proposition that we could articulate to somebody else to say, this is why me. This is why I'm the real estate professional that you want to hire today.
Great.
Exactly. Yeah, because my value proposition is I can stay calm in chaos because of my past experiences in finance and medical with that. So it has to come from behind.
You have transferable skills, right, Karina? It's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
You have transferable
exactly.
skills. So when you're writing out your value proposition, guys, if you are listening to what we're saying today, that the activities to take away from today's class, what motivates you? Write all those down. What is your purpose and value proposition? Write out what your transferable skills are. Did you have great communication skills because you were a bartender? Was it because you were in the medical field? What are the transferable skills that will help you in negotiating and everything to do with real estate? Ryan.
So I agree with what Karina said 100%. My value proposition came from, it's, that I treat every client like my only client. And a couple years ago, when things just started going crazy, I had a client who were buying and selling, or selling and buying in the same day. Their sale went through, but their purchase didn't for like weeks, and they were living out of a U-Haul. And every time I would call their attorney or their lender, they're like, listen, I don't have time for this. They're not my only client. But like, to them, they were homeless. That was all that they cared about. And like, everybody was just like, I'm too busy. They're not my only client. It's not the only person I have to think about. And to see those people like just thrown out there like that was so horrible, and I just wanted to, like, that was my value proposition. Like, no matter what, I'll always, like, those people when you sit in a room with them and they make you feel like the only person in the world, like, that's how I want my business to be. So
I love that. And I feel that coming through, even though we can't even see your face. I like feel that through your words, because you really truly mean it. And Ryan, you're setting a really good example for everybody on this call. What do you have passion about that you're bringing to your business? Why are you doing this? I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Right. And that leads us to like my favorite part of this too, where it talks about functionary versus fiduciary, right? The people helping Ryan's U-Haul family that was stuck in that truck, they were functionaries. They were just doing a job. They were just operating task by task, where Ryan was the fiduciary who they can do functionary work, but they take it the one step. Like they do everything that's within the legal requirements, but they treat their clients with great care and build relationships. So always think about that. Am I a functionary or a fiduciary?
Yes, and I love that. And I do want to highlight before we end today's call, we're going to take a couple of ahas from today before we sign off. I would love to mention on page 95, if you're having a hard time coming up with your value proposition, there are the top 10 service areas of the seller value proposition and top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition on page 95. So take a peek at those as you are building yours out. And please don't skip over this activity. This is a really big activity that will give you clarity and your customers and clients moving forward clarity on why you are the real estate professional of choice in your area, your local real estate professional. All right, so we have 5 minutes left and we want to make sure we get some ahas out there. Why we do ahas is because one, it solidifies the thought, and two, it brings thoughts to others. So please share in the next 5 minutes, what are your ahas from today's session? Go ahead, John.
My ha-ha was when that woman, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but when she talked about the value proposition and said, it should not be having to do with today, it should be what you bring in the past. And right after she said that, I thought about 6 or 7 things that I can list as my value proposition. And so
Oh my God.
I want to give a great big thank you to her. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, you're so welcome. I'm just so happy because my big thing is I need to learn one thing and I need to help one person. So
You helped me today, that's for sure.
I'm
Aw.
happy. I'm happy. My one aha that really, it got to me in the book, and that is the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. That was so profound that I had to find out who was the original sayer of that.
And who is it?
Google. So, and it was Bertrand Russell.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Karina.
Oh.
Who else? I see a couple in the chat. Keep going, fail forward, that I really need to refine in order to better define my why. Anyone else? Couple minutes left.
Hey there, guys. Arthur in here. I just wanted to share what I think is my big aha, and I think that the quote about Andrew Carnegie, I mean, permission to fail, the ability and giving permission for folks to push the limit and to do what they can without fear of failure. The failure is really what is
Permission to fail.
And the second thing, it was the analogy about the curveball with Kenny Williams. He changed the face of baseball. I'm a big sports guy. He changed the face of baseball by introducing something to the game that never had been done before. The curveball that changed everything, and it's literally players were like throwing themselves into the ground because they didn't know how to do it. I think we can do that in our business, following the model. A little bit creative when.
Thank you so much, Art. Really appreciate it. Next time, get closer to that mic so we could hear you a little bit louder. But
sorry about that.
We could hear you. Yeah, thank you. All right, Sandra. Oh, you're on mute.
I was going to say that we don't have to prove to anybody, but just to prove ourselves. Or I think there was Brooke that said that. Or I looked at it when she made that comment more that I need to be better than I was yesterday. That's it. Even if it's just a little bit, I don't have to be better or compare myself to anybody else. It was just do a little bit something to make it better. So learn from, again, not throwing that golf swing right and then try to see what you can do a little bit better just for you to be better at you, because my goals are not going to be the same. Or even if they are the same number, they're not going to be the same path because I am me.
Love that.
Yep, compete against you. 1%.
I'm
I say it at the
yep.
end of classes, right? If you've been in my classes, you hear it 1%
Yep.
better every day, guys. You can't take everything you've learned and implement it. Take one thing and run with it. Guys, we have hit 3:00. We cannot wait to finish this series with you. Tomorrow, we are going through pages 97 through 118. So if you want, Friday, I'm sorry. Yes, today's been Thursday all day in my world, and I'm a little messed up. Thank God my calendar exists. But for Friday, 97 through 118, I'm going to post the links and different books we talked about in the Growth Facebook group. What does that say, Jen?
I just want to finish with the level up is about improving, not impressing.
Can you send that to me? I would like that in text format for today's post. That is going to be the image on today's post that I put up. We are so grateful you chose this hour to spend with us, bettering yourselves and your business. And we will see you page 97 through 118 on the next session. Have a great day, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.